I appreciate the opportunity granted to me by the organizing committee of the World Congress of Gynecology and Obstetrics to share my personal experience about science and music among the arts. There appears to be no relationship between these disciplines, as seen in the following figure. A sculptor shaping a mass of marble, a painter expressing nature through his color, a musician translating their feelings on a staff, a surgeon removing a tumor from a patient to restore his health. But in the course of the talk, we will observe some similarities, especially between science and music, with the following objectives. Knowing the origins of science and music, describe the relationship between research work and musical composition. Know the parts of a symphony. Arouse interest in listening to classical music. First, let us briefly see the origin of music. For the primitive man, there were two signals that demonstrated the separation between life and death, the movement and sound. The rites of life and death were developed in this double key. Dance and song come together as symbols of life. Stillness and silence as symbols of death. The primitive man found music in nature. He used rudimentary objects as bones, canes, trunks, and shells. 50 centuries ago, in Sumerian, what is now Iraq, percussion and string instruments like lyres and harps were found. In Egypt, 2000 years before Christ, the voice was a powerful tool to reach the forces of the invisible world. It is not until Pythagoras that the mathematical relationship of music is discovered. Pythagoras was born in the 6th century before Christ. He only confirmed what the Sumerians already knew, the numerical relationship between the wavelengths, and experienced that string lengths reasons 1 to 2, 3 to 4, and 2 to 3 produce pleasant sounds to the ear, and build a scale in the wake of these proportions, as seen in the slide, corresponding to the white keys of a piano. The problem was that not all the intervals between the notes were the same. This is called diatonic scale. It is in the year 1627 when the French mathematician Mersenne formulated precisely the ratio of chord length and its frequency in Universal Harmony book. This allowed the creation of a scale where all intervals are equal, the chromatic scale that corresponds exactly to the full keyboard of a piano. Each of these keys corresponding to a note has a name. What are the names of the notes? They originate in the Middle Age, when the Italian Guido d'Arezzo used the first syllable of a hymn to St. John to give name to the notes. As seen in the sheet, the first syllables are highlighted, and the notes Ra, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La can be observed. The first note UT was changed to Do for the easier pronunciation and translation. The last note, the note C, left the first letter of the names that by that time was Sante Ioannes. The mathematical relationship with the music there, no doubt, if we look at the value of each note. A round note equals 2 wide notes. A wide note equals 2 quarter notes. A quarter note to 2 quavers. A quaver note to 2 semiquavers, a semiquaver to 2 fusas, a fusa to 2 semifusas, which means that there is an arithmetical progression by 2. As mathematics is the music that was included in the curriculum from ancient Greece to the Renaissance. 7 topics that were called knowledge were studied. The first 3 were grammar, rhetoric, and dialectic, or logic, and which constituted the tribune or human knowledge. The other 4 were arithmetics, music, geometry, and astronomy, which constituted the quadrivium or accurate knowledge. Now we will see the origin of science briefly. Science has also undergone an evolutionary process. This is how non-rational animals only are in the world. Instead, the man tries to understand it on the basis of the imperfect intelligence, but perfectible. In this process, the man builds an artificial world that grows a body of ideas called science that can be characterized as knowledge that is rational, systematic, accurate, verifiable, fallible, and systematized using scientific research, through which the man has succeeded in rebuilding the world that is increasingly broad, deep, and accurate. This evolution has been authored by distinguished philosophers and scientists as the ones we see in the slides, and are widely known to you. In old age, Socrates, Aristotle, Plato, and others. In the modern age, Franklin, Engels, Alva Edison. And in contemporary and current age, Karl Popper, Immanuel Kant, and Mario Bunge, and more. There is thus a parallel between music and science, here represented by a scientist like Einstein and a musician like Beethoven. Perhaps the only similarity between them is that they are German and have long hair, but there is a common denominator among them. It is strong and intense creativity. In the scientist, the curiosity to discover the question that nature poses through the testing of hypotheses. It creates science. In the musician, the sensitivity to manifest through musical notes the nature stimuli. It creates music. These parallels that we observe perfectly when we note the features between research work and musical composition. In the research work, 3 formalities must be kept. The linguistic formalities relating to the proper use of language that gives the research work accuracy as equal to or greater than mathematics. The logic formality to an irrefutable statement of the problem and hypothesis. The methodological formality to use appropriate means to demonstrate the hypothesis. In musical composition, there are also 3 formalities. The melodic formality, that is ascending or descending rational use of musical notes running into time slots called bars. The rhythmic formality that combines notes and rests which have different duration in time. And harmonic formality, which is the simultaneous execution of 2 or more notes giving a chord. The succession of chords gives harmony. The components of the research are already well known to you: introduction, material and method, results and discussion and conclusions. These components can equate in each of the 4 movements that has the 5th Symphony of Beethoven. So, for example, in every movement of the symphony there are 4 well-established components. 1. Exposure of themes, first theme in the principal tonality and the secondary theme in a different tonality. 2. Development of both themes. 3. Replenishing the main theme and secondary theme. 4. The ending or conclusion. To be more explicit, let us return to the parallelism between the research and musical composition, presenting them with the following scheme. As we look to the left in relation to research, it is important for the determination of its variables. There are the dependent and the independent, and whose management will be the problem, the question. This will lead us to formulate the hypothesis, state the objectives, and after its contrasting declare conclusions. To the right, you can see the work done to compose the Fifth Symphony. Just as in the research variables exist, in music composition there are the musical themes. The first theme in the principal tonality and the second theme in a different tonality. Both themes are merged into a musical development coming to the return of the main theme, then the return of the secondary theme, ending with the coda or final conclusion. This film is to show the skeleton of the Fifth Symphony. It consists of 4 movements. Each of them has, as mentioned above, and we repeat it, the exposure of the first theme in the home key, exposure of the second theme in a different key, the development of both themes replenishing the first and the second theme, and the coda or final conclusion. This pattern is repeated in the next moves. Then, moving on to the presentation of a video of the first movement of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony to appreciate its different parts. Friends and colleagues, I want to finish my presentation with a thought and end with a short walk through the living nature. Medicine is a science and it is also an art, and all art is beauty. Then the doctor is a creator of beauty. In our life, by fighting disease, evil and sadness, and by giving the body health and beauty, we create peace and joy in spirit. Like a beautiful painting, a sculpture, a literary work, or a nice melody, with the difference that we make it in a living nature. First, we doctors, scientists and artists must be sensitive to value what we do and enjoy it. Our artworks are not covered by closed museums and salons for entry to be drawn, but on the streets and squares of our cities. And each of these works have been recorded like our fingerprints and also perhaps some of our feelings. Each cured patient is not a commercial product, but a living melody, just sharpen the ear to capture its sound. Finally, the walk offered by the living nature, whose beauty and encouragement have produced beautiful compositions that accompany us now.